It is a pleasure and a blessing to have you all join with us this morning. Your presence here makes this time sacred to all of us. This morning, we are delighted to share a worship service created through the heart songs of poetry. Members of our Tree of Life poetry group meet once a month to share their joy of poetry, and they have pulled together poems that they've written or taken from other sources that reflect on the theme variations of liberating love. Carol Alphys facilitates our poetry group and is worship leader, and formerly she chaired the worship arts team for many years. Sue Rickenthaler co-chairs Tree of Life's social justice team, organizes our members in serving our unhoused neighbors and other areas needing action, and she's frequently an usher and also attends chalice circles. Teresa Castino often serves as a greeter and takes part in our Chalice Circle program as well. Jane Richards is a published poet and participates in Tree of Life's music and poetry activities. Julie Huddle serves on our board of trustees and with our worship tech team. She participates in chalice circles and mindfulness practice and helps to plan the solstice celebrations. We also have poems by Julie Munro, but she couldn't be here. She couldn't be here due to a family need. So we are grateful for these gifts that are shared with us today. As we enter this time together, we acknowledge that the land on which Tree of Life Unitarian Universalist Congregation stands is the unceded territory of the Peoria, Potawatomi, Maiamia, Oceti Sakowin, Ho-Chunk, and Kikapua peoples. Today, our meeting place in Illinois is still home to many indigenous people, and we are grateful for the opportunity to gather on this land. As we now come together for our worship, one thought I'd like us to hold is that for public readings of poetry, typically we show our appreciation with applause. Today, because there are many poems, and because worship works best when there is a flow, I'd like to suggest we hold our appreciation until the end of worship, and then perhaps offer an individual thank you to poets during our social hour. One of the many blessings that we enjoy here at Tree of Life is the variety of ways we come together in worship. We began this new year with a fire communion. Next month is our flower communion, and in July we will have our first ever chocolate communion. Sorry, poets, I just stole your thunder. Today, we open our hearts to worship through poetry on the theme of love's liberation. One of the wondrous views of love being liberated is with the emergence of a newly formed butterfly as it exits its chrysalis, lifts off, and takes flight on the air. Such liberation is illuminated in Hans Christian Andersen's quote, "Just living is not enough," said the butterfly. "One must have sunshine, freedom, and a little flower." As the words of our poets emerge into light and take flight, may they land on our hearts as a gift of beauty and delight. Let us worship together. We will now light our chalice while Jesse Bowen reads our chalice lighting words. You are invited to light your own chalice at home if you would like.
Our chalice reading today is adapted from a poem by Edward Ida called A Liberating Gift. Once in a blue moon, words do fail me, but my pen never does. It's my silent voice. A pen never betrays a poet. In mine, I'll always put all my love and trust. To be able to wondrously weave a tapestry of emotions and images, to touch, to move, to captivate, with the mere stroke of our faithful pen is a treat to behold. Poets have a gift, a liberating gift.
Thank you, Jesse. And please join in, please join in reading our mission statement. At Tree of Life, UUC, we nurture a community that welcomes diversity, supports the spiritual growth of its members, and acts to create a more just society. And now please rise in body or in spirit for singing our first hymn, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end.
We will now have our story for all ages by Sue Reckenthaler.
I'd like to share with you a poem by Amy Petrie Shaw. God gave me a word. I was talking with God the other day, because we're cool like that. And God said, hey, I want you to tell people something. And I was kind of busy, so I pretended I didn't hear. And God poked me and said, I'm not kidding. Pay attention. Because we're cool. We aren't that cool. And I know when I have pushed it way too far. So I put down my coffee cup and I turned around. And God said, "Let me hang a word around your neck so that everyone can see it. And you better speak it out, 'cause I'll know if you don't. And it will be heavy, so heavy on your soul." And a word was hung around my neck to take out to the people standing in the streets. A word was preached into my ear and laid into my mouth and burned into my heart until all I could see was the shape of the word, and the word was all, and the word was love. And God said, "Now get out, because you don't have all day, and the word is going to get heavier, and you got some work yet to do." So I'm taking my word out into the world. Love came down on this green earth. Love came down and turned over the tables and set the world on its end. Love made it clear that it was the word for the poor and the broken-hearted, for the queer boy and the angry girl. Love was the word for late-night hookers and the long-haul truckers, for the heroin junkie and the runaway cutters. Love was the word for all the screwed up and pushed over and too tired and I can't take no more. Love was the word for the HIV patient and the man with no papers. Love was the word for me and for you, for the saints and the sinners and the scramblers in between. Love came down and made a way for there to be a way. And then love said, "We are never going back. He who has ears, let him hear." Love said we are all a part of something bigger, and you cannot rise with us if you cannot love with us. Then you should get the hell out of the way, because we aren't going anywhere, and you are in the path. He who has ears, let him hear. Love came down for the world to know, and I'm holding out this word, so even when you and God are just like that, you can't pretend you didn't know. I cannot put it down. Not for a politician spewing hatred, not for a minister vomiting out bile in the costume of a saint, not for money or for country or for kin. I'm holding my word in my mouth, because the next time I see God, I want to be able to say, "You gave me a word, and I carried it just the way you asked. You gave it to me, and I took it. I showed it to everyone I met. You gave it to me, and I showed it to her and Gur and Z and him. I showed it to them, and they and those over there. I never put it down. I can never put it down." I was talking with God the other day. because we're cool like that. And God said, hey, I want you to tell people something. And I was still kind of busy, so I pretended that I didn't hear. And God said, I'm not kidding. Pay attention. Because while we're cool, we aren't that cool. And I know when I have pushed it way too far. So I put down my coffee cup and I turned around, and then God gave me a word. And now I am giving it to you. Start moving.
Thank you, Sue, for that story. And now, please rise in body or in spirit as you're able for singing hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
A poem for Mary, entitled A Mirrored Essence. How can I love you if I cannot love myself? It's so easy to fall in your presence. Rainbow of colors rain over us as shafts of morning light stream through the window. How is it feels this natural to feel, just feel, everything at once and then nothing at all? A peaceful silence, save for the sound of your heart steadily beating within. How simple your acts of kindness. expressing joyful wonder and tenderness of spirit. Each day we dream this dream together. How naive I once was, thinking a fleeting touch, a spontaneous moment wouldn't leave me incomplete. I now understand the longing was the passion of this immeasurable soul. My hand is your hand, my heart is your heart, braided into an ethereal loom that is free to dissolve itself into the infinite. How is it for us to find ourselves here, now, observing a mirrored essence? As I love you, I love myself.
Waves, a poem I wrote in the 1990s. I am sitting in the sunshine, emitting at a green-like wavelength. I think I might have been a plant before. A bushy house plant, dropping my leaves on the floor, crowding my leaves in the windows to absorb the light, growing in a disorderly fashion. Able to withstand a few periods of neglect. I am emitting my green light wavelength with hope that I might find someone emitting at a harmonious wavelength. I do not expect our waves to peak together always, just often enough. I want to flower. I want to shower everyone with beauty and sweetness. I want everyone to be happy. I want to fully express my capacity to be happy. I am messy. I am a messy, tangled mass of human experience. I don't expect you to untangle me. I just want you to know me enough to comprehend me. Unloosen me if you want to see my hidden parts. Accept the strength and the limitations my tangles give me. Challenge me to find my strengths rather than my weaknesses. I want to make waves, big waves of love. I want to send my waves out to the world. I want to feel reflections. I want to feel the waves of others. I want us all to make big waves of love, and when we are all exhausted, we can settle into a deep, peaceful calm.
Love and grief are inextricably intertwined, and it is through love that grief can be healed. Wolf Moon. She has been with us 3 nights. Under clear skies, she emerges unblemished, unrolls her luminous carpet across January snow, her fingers tracing precise outlines, tangled branches, tree trunks in dark columns. In these woods, bones exposed, mute, our refuge from the bruises of loss, we wait for the greening, the hum of trees breathing. The hour before dawn, the moon arrives at our window, spreads strong hands across our bed. Prodding us from old darkness, we awaken inside her canescent embrace. Trace the features on each other's face.
We will We will now enjoy the music created during COVID by resilient New Yorkers. Musicians from the Grace Chorale of Brooklyn, First Unitarian Congregational Society of Brooklyn, the First Presbyterian Church of Brooklyn, all were brought together by Adam and Matt Pod brothers, who arranged, orchestrated, and produced this music video for us.
My life goes on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
While though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. And though the darkness round me grows, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost song, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep
Liberating love. I don't believe in liberating love as a sweet devotion that can mend our scars and scabs, welts and wounds, blemishes and burns. Humanity is challenged by its merciless nature, and bleeding hearts whisper love. We've witnessed unseeable images, experienced enduring pain. We are heirs to endemic trauma and perpetual cycles of despair. In the face of brutal violence and unrelenting hate, a soft love will not do. We must explode. We must erupt. We must burst out of this slumber with a fever that penetrates, a thirst that necessitates, a lust that devours our greed. Only an interminable fire of love, raging from heart's center, can emancipate the empathic condition. This love, a response of uncompromising passion. This love, the resolute communion. This is liberating love.
This poem by Theo Dorgan, a contemporary Irish poet, probes the idea that love lives on after loss. A woman in winter. She walks the ditch, contented and alone, sends up a flight of crows with every stone. Beyond the ridge, beyond the frost-gripped fence, the light pours down on lands of innocence. A tree stands out against the winter snow, a tree her mother planted years ago. The sun flares up and shines through bitter cold on sudden flashing ornaments of gold.
Julie Monroe is a writer, poet, and musician who lives in Woodstock, and this is her poem, Reflection. I passed him on the trail in the woods. It was fall, and yellow aspen leaves fell like rain in the sunlight. He and his friends were climbing the cliffs at dawn. We exchanged good mornings as we passed, and he smiled and sighed, "Ah, what a beautiful day." I saw it in his eyes. It came into my body like an old friend. It filled the leaves in the trees with song. We passed, and I saw him look over his shoulder once again. He smiled at me. Spirit reaches for spirit, doesn't it? How do we know we are alive if we don't see ourselves in the mirror of another soul?
And we now can stay seated for the hymn of 398, which is with the words of William Blake.
To see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
My tribe. How many search a lifetime and never find them? The sisters, the kindred spirits that always seem just out of reach. Our tribe, our other halves, our blood brothers. I am the fortunate one. They found me. They love me and all my shortcomings and scars. They welcome me with open arms and hearts. They release me from my self-doubt chains and wrap warm arms around me. My tribe offers me strength. My tribe offers me shelter. My tribe offers me space to grow. Freedom and security woven together, liberation and stability in the same cloth. Love with the challenge to love others.
I wrote this poem a few years ago about love in action by our tribes. Love shows up. The call goes out and love shows up, cooks a meal, does the laundry, walks the dog, washes the dishes, sits for a minute or two, and then asks, "What's next?" The call goes out and love shows up, sends a card, says a prayer, petitions the universe, asks the cherished departed for comfort and strength. The call goes out and love shows up, provides a shoulder, holds a hand, talks, but mostly listens, and if needed, gently speaks a hard, unwelcome truth. Love shows up to do the work, to offer solace, to bear witness, to cradle the pieces until healing can begin.
Incarnation by Julie Monroe. I felt it for a moment, just a moment, the love that Jesus must have felt. For a moment, I watched my conversation change. I had no need to steer the conversation into my way of thinking. I held no heavy investment in being right. I was just flowing with the rhythm. It was like singing harmony in a very difficult piece of music. And when the pitch was raised, I saw the sunset in his eyes, and I felt it, and I brought the high note of love to his heart. He turned away for the briefest second. How hard it is to hold love. Habit makes it easier to hold anger, position, and indifference. Habit makes it easier to resist the risk. But I know he felt the love for a moment, too. Now, it wasn't romantic at all. It was a kind of love that Jesus must have had. And I felt it come out of my spirit like nothing else ever has before.
Thank you, poets, for these wonderful heart songs that we have to carry with us. And now we have an additional heart song from Sandy Light, who will speak of the heart song she carries for being part of this congregation.
Hi, I'm Sandy Light, and I share a pledge unit with John Murphy. Last year, we greatly increased our pledge, and that led to our being invited to speak with you today. I started attending this congregation's services in 1984, and as a visitor, I'd put something in the plate as it went by. I started pledging when the pledge team asked everyone to pledge to give a best estimate of a contribution amount so there could be a realistic budget. I was reluctant to commit. My finances were shaky, and I didn't want to have to back out if I couldn't meet the promise. But I knew about budgets and understood needing to know what could be spent, so I pledged. Many years I increased my pledge. Some years stayed steady. One year when I was unemployed, my pledge nosedived, but I built it back up. I met John Murphy later in life, and as I got to know him, I learned he wasn't poor, he wasn't rich, he was responsible with his resources, and he was generous. I saw him be generous with 10 nieces and nephews and his other relatives, his old church, me, waiters, kids selling lemonade on the roadside, everyone. He believed there's no point in dying with a lot of money. If you have what you need, then spread some around to causes, groups, and people in your life. He was financially fearless, and it was good for me to see someone operating that way. I grew up with attitudes and money differences different from John's. In the 1950s and 60s, routine choices for women didn't appeal to me at all, and I felt a need to support myself. I got a math degree. I worked in computer software for 40 years. Thanks to laws changing about who can be considered for credit, I was the first woman in my family to have a credit card based on my credit, and later, a mortgage with just me borrowing. There were pay inequities at work, especially in the 1970s. I benefited from changes in societal and business attitudes towards women. I trailblazed. My path had ups and downs. I didn't know that I would achieve my goal. I like to consider myself generous, but I recognized that my financial generosity, even at church, was constrained. Still, each year I pledged what I could, and now I can do more. As much as anyone's crystal ball works, I have a clearer view of the future. I have money for everything I need and for some of what I want. I get to decide the best use of other spending. Like John, I would like to support groups that share my values and do good work, make a difference like this congregation does. Last year's pledge big increase was partly because we got old enough to start using qualified charitable distributions. QCD is available to people of a certain age who have money in certain kinds of retirement accounts who want to donate to charity without paying taxes. We can donate lots more this way. Tree of Life has an endowment fund that supports the congregation's long-term financial strengths. You may know that I am one of the trustees of that fund. I'm familiar with the fund, and I think it's a good concept. When I did my personal planning, I decided that when I don't need money anymore, now this is in 40 years, or it could be less, the endowment fund will get most of the taxable money that I didn't use during my life. And I don't have to wait until I die to share money that I am unlikely to use. It brings me pleasure to pledge more now and to see the congregation make a difference now. And if I just use the beneficiary path to giving, I will miss seeing what happens with the money. So I want to enjoy this part of the journey. And I'll end with a quote from Joseph Campbell. "Money is congealed energy. Releasing it releases life's possibilities."
Now that we are in our centered breathing, we continue the centering with the centering poems.
A compassionate theory of transformation. The speed of light is involved in the conversion of mass into energy, energy into mass. Can love likewise transform being into action, action into being? These transformations hold power within mystery. I breathe in. I am love, filled with compassion. I breathe out. I act as love, sharing compassion.
Surrender by Arlene Gay Levine. Let us learn to live loosely in our skin, these luxurious temples of borrowed light, havens for evolving souls. Lessons here are about letting go, and then letting go some more, opening hands, hearts, and minds wider and wider still until they are empty enough to be filled with what we are made of, that same light that some call God and I name love.
Spirit Touches Me by Stephen Charleston and chosen by Julie Monroe. For all the great thoughts I have read, for all the deep books I have studied, none has brought me nearer to spirit than a walk beneath shimmering leaves. Gold and red with the fire of autumn, when the air is crisp and the sun a pale eye watching. Spirit touches me, and I touch spirit. Each time I lift a leaf from my path, a thin flake of golden red, still warm from the breath that made it. Blessed be, and amen. And we now join in our final hymn, 398, To See the World.
To see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
We will now read our closing words. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith, divine living. I will now extinguish our chalice flame. If you have a chalice at home, you may do the same. We extinguish this flame of communal worship and now carry its light within us.
May you find new paths to walk. May your detours be fruitful. May you find your footing at night. May you remember to look up from your feet. May you always have snacks. May you savor each step, whether stumbling or sure. May kind companions hold your hand. May you forget your destination, if only for a few precious moments. May you walk in love.
To see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity